Love of the Sun is a new object show that is very good. If you have not already, go watch it and my review of it, since I will be spoiling everything and this is not a review. If you are not going to do that first for some reason, I will briefly explain. In Love of the Sun we see the place objects go before being regenerated, a common thing in object shows. It seems simple enough, but this got me thinking. Not every show has recovery or recovers in the same way. So now I am going to be going over some object shows I am a fan of and discuss what I think happens in Love of the Sun. Also, I don't believe any of this would necessarily be true, this is just for fun. Battle for Dream Island is the first and most basic show to go over. It served as the direct inspiration for not just the Love of the Sun, but the entire object show community. However, it still has a long history of recovery methods, so let's get started. The first type of recovery center were automatic recovery centers. Regardless of what type, these would recover an object immediately upon death. Upon death, Bubble would immediately recover, so here's my idea on how that would work. In Love of the Sun, we witness how after death one must wait to be recovered and is awoken from the machine that links them to the world. With an automatic recovery, I believe that they would never even go to the sun, at least not fully. They may gain a second of consciousness in the sun, but they would immediately get their memory erased and sent back automatically. The operators are meant to watch their patients all the time, but for these, I would assume it was merely automated. The machine detects that they have woken up and it immediately sends them back. If the center is broken or changed to a different type, then an operator is sent to deal with the patient. The second main type of recovery center is the manual input recovery center. With these recovery centers, you generally have to put in the object's name or do some other action to make them recover. This is the same kind seen in Love of the Sun as explained by Michael. This kind of center does not need to really be explained, but basically, the operator keeps the patient in the recovery room, and once they see that a recovery request has been sent, they send back the object. The third type is magical recovery. Basically, when four or some other being recovers an object. This is very similar to manual recovery, but I think it works under different principles. Not every character can recover objects, so I believe that you need to be trained not in the actual recovery, but in the ability to contact the sun. This is why only powerful beings can access this ability. While they aren't aware of the sun, they are directly requesting a recovery from them. We see X actually train for this, and it takes a while. If done incorrectly, then the object won't be sent properly. This means that only those who are versed in powerful abilities can ever dream to do this. Moving on from BFDI or shows like BFDI, we have lots of shows that flip the normal object show idea of recovery and flip it on its head. They don't have recovery. The Nightly Manor is a really good object show. Mostly the second half. In the Nightly Manor, death is permanent as the world is realistic in comparison to other shows. Many would argue that this just makes it separate from the sun, but I think that's lame. I believe the sun would have protocol for worlds with no recovery, and here are my theories. Firstly is that upon death the objects of the world would simply be sent to the sun and stay there eternally, perhaps in a different building than everyone else, or that's why so many objects are just walking around freely in the pilot. The other theory I have is that even worlds with recovery centers have an eventual permanent death. This means that wherever they are sent when that happens applies to the Nightly Manor. More than likely it would be rebirth, or simply no longer existing. One is a great object show except for the ending. It is very similar to the human world, even to the extent that all objects have actual names. I'm not sure whether or not that influences anything in the sun, but here's my theory. The death plane of one is a void that manifests based on your life, so that you will seemingly walk into the light. After this, it presumably would be the same for death in the Nightly Manor, but what about if the people use the radio? For those not in the know, the radio allows anyone who has died to enter a frequency and teleport back into the world of the living. Although it is not just back to their original world, but across the multiverse. I believe that this was part of the creation of the world unrelated to the sun, and the sun communicates to the radio similarly to recovery centers. If someone inputs a frequency, the sun operator will send them down to whatever world was requested, or it may even be automatic. This would call into question how that object would then go back to the death plane they know if sent to a world without it, or even the other people of the other worlds. I believe that this would be a self-contained multiverse. Every universe that uses the radio room as its afterlife is connected via the radio. Someone who dies in these worlds will never get sent to a universe outside of the universes that use it, so they are all unified in that way. I think this theory is kind of insane, but I have no other explanation to give. And that's about it. I'm sure there are other object shows to discuss, but these are the ones I thought of and I had some kind of explanation for. Well, that was me, Golden Archetype, and stay gold everyone, stay gold.